MSC Cruises is in the news for all the wrong reasons, as a ship has just docked in Port Canaveral with over 200 positive cases on board. Cruising in Hawaii has officially resumed, and another ship is set to restart very, very soon. We'll give you the details. Plus, we take a look at what ports you're likely to be turned away from if you have a cruise in the coming weeks. And Carnival Cruise Line up and changed the itinerary on a very special Panama Canal cruise. All this coming up on Midships. Hey, welcome to the Midships YouTube channel. I'm your Captain Corey. Thank you so much for stopping by the channel today. Well, it's going to be a rough episode of cruise news because there's really not a ton of great cruise news right now, save for the resumption of cruising in Hawaii. So we're going to start there before we get into some of the other stories, especially the one with the over 200 COVID cases that just came back to Port Canaveral on board an MSC cruise ship. But first, we head way out west, all the way to Hawaii for our first story. From KHON 2 by Linda Dela Cruz. Grand Princess cruise ship arrived in Honolulu earlier today. The Grand Princess cruise ship docked in Honolulu on Sunday, January 9th. The ship began her voyage in Los Angeles, California a few days earlier on January 4th. This is the first cruise ship with passengers that will get off since the beginning of the coronavirus pandemic. After departing Honolulu, the cruise ship will make 3 additional stops in the Hawaiian Islands before heading back towards the mainland. So that's some really exciting news for Princess Cruises. I know over the last few days, they've taken some of the brunt of the tough news coming out from the West Coast, especially for that cruise ship that came into San Francisco with literally 12 COVID cases on board. Literally 12 COVID cases. Can't make this stuff up. If you haven't seen that video, it's the most recent episode before this one. Go ahead and check it out. And since we're talking about Hawaiian cruises, why don't we take a look at Norwegian's plans in the state of Hawaii? Norwegian's Pride of America returns to Hawaii for island hopping cruises. From Seattle Pie by Lori A. May. As cruising continues to make its comeback, Norwegian Cruise Lines will soon reintroduce the Pride of America. This ship sails round trip from Honolulu, Hawaii year-round, with generous time spent in port to fully enjoy each of the islands. Currently, this is the only ship dedicated to sailing the Hawaiian Islands exclusively, and Pride of America is scheduled to restart its island hopping cruises on January 22nd. I'm a little curious, has anyone out there in the Midships family, hashtag Team Midships, ever sailed aboard the Pride of America? Go ahead and comment it down below. I'd love to hear your answer. And unfortunately, that's the end of the good news for today, because now it's time for the doom and gloom, and we're going to start out with Carnival Cruise Line. They had a very special Panama Canal cruise that was leaving from Baltimore today, and now it's not so much of a Panama Canal cruise. We'll pick the story up there from cruiseradio.net by Richard Sims. Carnival shortens Panama Canal cruise, citing Omicron concerns. This week's sailing of the Carnival Legend is being shortened by several days, and won't actually be sailing through the Panama Canal. Guests scheduled to sail on the January 9th Carnival Legend itinerary received a letter the day before their cruise informing them that the company wanted to provide them with an update regarding their itinerary. And the letter said the following: given the rapidly evolving COVID-related circumstances around the world, and in an abundance of caution, it will be necessary to modify the itinerary of your cruise. The voyage will now operate as a 10-day cruise, returning to Baltimore 4 days early on January 19th. Unfortunately, this also means we will not be able to operate the Panama Canal itinerary that you were expecting. And while the letter cited concerns regarding the Omicron variant as the reason for the changes, Carnival's brand ambassador added another reason. John Heald said the following: I'm afraid we had to change the cruise. This is because of expected bad weather, and with this and the current COVID protocols, we had to change the cruise. So literally 1 day before your Panama Canal cruise, which is not a cheap itinerary, by the way, you get a letter, just like an email or a text from the cruise line saying, we changed it around, and the highlight of the trip, we're no longer doing that. In my opinion, it's not okay for a cruise line to give notice that late in the ball game. I know every once in a while something's going to come up, genuinely, but it's not as if a major cruise line like Carnival can't hire somebody to figure out what the weather's going to be 2 weeks in advance in a specific location. Plus, citing Omicron concerns, we've been concerned about Omicron for multiple weeks now. If that was the reason, Carnival had plenty of time to go ahead and say, hey guys, we're going to modify this before you've actually spent money and actually gotten on airplanes or driven and are staying at a hotel at the port awaiting your departure. Come on, Carnival. And sadly, Carnival Cruise Line is not the only cruise line on the naughty list today, because MSC they may be taking some flack over this one. From cruiselawnews.com by Jim Walker. And this is Jim Walker over here on the right-hand side. Jim Walker is an attorney who litigates against the cruise line, so this article is going to come from a specific point of view that is more anti-cruise than pro-cruise. So take that with a grain of salt. There's definitely some opinion mixed in this article that I am going to try to flesh out. Jim, if you're listening and you want to have a news website, try to flesh out some more of that opinion and try to focus a little bit more on the alternative point of view, not just your own. So we're going to get into the article. MSC Meraviglia arrives back in Port Canaveral with 169 crew members and 60 guests infected with COVID. For those who can't do math quickly, 229 total COVID cases on board the Meraviglia. Meraviglia arrived in Port Canaveral early this morning with what one ship officer characterized as a massive number of people infected on board. According to this officer, who will remain anonymous, as of last night, there were 169 crew members and at least 60 blah, 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 we know this, who tested positive as the ship which ended its 7-day cruise. At least one ambulance was waiting at the dock when the MSC ship returned to port. Meraviglia is one of many cruise ships with a large number of crew members and guests positive on board. So obviously all of these positive cases on board cruise ships are definitely reason for concern, but given that the Omicron variant is the dominant variant right now, is it really a reason to freak out on all this doom and gloom? Personally, maybe, depending on the circumstances and the people that are involved that are getting infected. Yeah, there may be a reason to shout that the sky is falling, but over the past few weeks of reporting on Omicron on board cruise ships, I can't think of a single case that resulted in hospitalization or super serious circumstances for the people involved. So it definitely begs the question, why are there so many people freaking out about this? I'd love to hear your opinion in the comments below this video. While you're down there, I want to remind you, there are links to all of the articles referenced in today's Midships episode. Also, right at the top, there is a link to the Midships Instagram. It's a fantastic place to get a behind-the-scenes look at what goes on here in the Midships channel. And last but not least, I'd encourage you to check out my Amazon influencers link below this video as well. It'll take you to my Amazon influencers page, and there you will find cruise swag that I take with me on every single cruise, and you should too. Most of the items on there cost 10 or 12 bucks, unless you want to look at the really sweet camera on there, or some of the really popular t-shirts that are on there as well. It's a great way for you to support the Midships channel. Now, over the past few weeks, we've been reporting on cruise ships being turned away from cruise ports left and right. With all the sensationalism and the reporting around it, you would think that nearly every cruise ship is being turned away at nearly every port. Well, that's not really the case, but cruisecritic.com has put out a really nice list of ports that have already turned away cruise ships, and we're going to check it out now. From Cruise Critic's Aaron Saunders, Coronavirus 2022, what ports are closed to ships? Planning for your cruise vacation can be very difficult during COVID times, with ports that seemingly open and close to cruise ships on a whim. CruiseCritic.com has tracked port status and offers a detailed guide. Ports that are open to cruises now could still turn away ships at their discretion. So now we're going to check out the ports that are closed to cruise ships or have refused ships the permission to dock. Beginning with Aruba, while not officially closed to tourism, Aruba has mandated PCR testing requirements and has turned away numerous ships. Obviously, Australia's closed. You're not even allowed to leave your house if you haven't received a jab, so we're not even going to talk about them. What Australia's doing to their citizens does not even belong in polite civil society. Bonaire has been refusing permission for ships with any cases of COVID. Brazil's ports are closed to tourism. Canada's ports are technically open, but they haven't really said anything, and no ships have tried to go to Canada yet. So we're not really sure. For my money, I'm going to lean towards Canada will probably turn ships away with more than a handful of cases on board, just judging by how cautious they were throughout the beginning of the pandemic. Cartagena, Colombia, as well as Curacao have been turning any ships away with cases on board. Grand Cayman remains closed. Grenada, Hong Kong is closed to tourism. Royal Caribbean's private island in Labadee is currently closed. Monterey, California just closed. New Zealand, Ocho Rios, San Juan, Puerto Rico is not officially closed, but there's new testing requirements there. And St. Thomas in the Virgin Islands has been turning away ships with any COVID cases on board. So that's your cruise news. You know the ports now that have turned ships away. Go ahead and sound off in the comments below. If you made it this far into today's video, make sure you give it a big thumbs up. If you'd rather be on a cruise, sipping your favorite fruity drink. Also, make sure you're subscribed to the channel. We have a goal by the middle of March to have 10,000 subscribers here in the Midships family. Thanks so much for stopping by the channel today. And until tomorrow, we'll see ya on the Midships.
La 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 la.